What is going on, my specialist SPC here, and Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you guys all had a very good, happy, and safe New Year's, and even a great holiday as well. So, guys, today, for the very first podcast of 2021, we are going to be talking about the good, the bad, the mixed, talking about every single thing that happened in 2020. Now, there are going to be some subjects that I am not going to get very in-depth about because some of them didn't really pertain to me, so I don't really want to give any opinions about anything like that. But obviously, first thing we could obviously talk about that kind of really affected everybody this past year, and that was COVID-19. Yes, COVID-19. I forgot to turn my volume off. Sorry. I mean, man, it really honestly just changed everything. Like, the way we have viewed things here now over the last little while have been so vastly different. I mean, obviously, of course, everybody should have been still staying safe, washing their hands, covering their mouths when they cough, stay home if you're sick, all that kind of stuff. But it really got ramped up to a whole new level this year. And I mean a whole new level. I mean, obviously now everybody's got to be wearing face masks. I'm sure some people probably know somebody who's either had the virus or who knows, maybe even possibly passed away from the virus as well. I've been one of the fortunate ones who has yet to catch it. I've unfortunately had a couple of had a couple family members catch it. I've had some people at work catch it. But I've been lucky enough to be, just avoiding everything I can, not really trying not to go out as much. I mean, that's been one of the kind of few positives when it comes to the movie theaters getting shut down this year. That's also another thing I want to talk about here in just a little bit after I kind of get through this a little bit. But the virus really just kind of affected us in quite a hard way. I mean, for a lot of people, some people lost their jobs. Again, some people got extremely sick. Some people have even unfortunately passed away due to this virus. And it's tragic to think about that. Like, I honestly had no idea. I'll be flat out honest with you guys. I normally always am. I didn't know anything about this virus until around the time of my birthday this past year. I went out with a couple of friends and my sister, and the place we went to was really dead. It was just the five of us and like two other people. Everybody was wiping everything down. Everybody was just keeping their distances. And I mean, even big cities completely shut down. Like Las Vegas, Nevada. Like, that is one of the biggest places. It's one of the, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that's like one of the few cities that never sleeps. I think that's more New York, but it's strange when especially if you've actually been to Las Vegas, you've actually seen the city, you've walked around, you've done all sorts of things around there. You've seen it at night. And then during the beginning part of this whole pandemic, you watch the news and you literally see the streets of Vegas just empty. Not a single light's on. No buildings are flashing. Nothing is going on. The city is literally just black. It's insane. And even too, as I just said, that's been another kind of negative, but also positive of the virus is traveling, because there were quite a few places that I was supposed to go this past year when it came to traveling. I was supposed to be going to Vegas. I was supposed to be going to Montana. I wanted to go to a city even close here from Bismarck. And the virus just really put that to a screeching halt. And it's been nice, because it's been nice to be able to save money and save it for another time, save it for a future trip, whatever. And at the same time, it's not been fun just staying here, staying at home, not really being able to go out and do much, especially, again, at the beginning handful of months of the pandemic. I mean, unfortunately, I had to go out once in a while and, go get groceries or go get gas or whatever. But especially with me and my work, I'm also one of the few places where we were essential workers. For those of you guys who don't know, I work at the Coke plant here in Bismarck, North Dakota. And we have yet to shut down. I will even willingly say we have had about 4 or 5 cases popped up in our building, and we've all been forced to, wear face masks, again, sanitize, clean up, whatever we got to do to stay healthy, stay clean. And at the same time, I don't understand how, because the people who have actually, gotten sick have also been walking around the building, walking around everybody. But again, I have yet to test positive for this virus. So it's been fingers crossed. I hope that's how it stays. Even too, I've also unfortunately not been able to do much with my family. We've had a couple of get-togethers this year, but I've also kind of avoided going and being around everybody just because, especially with my fiance, she works in the hospital, and, a few weeks ago she worked COVID. And so I played it safe. I stayed home. I didn't do anything for the holidays, unfortunately. And it really, I don't want to say it affected me, but it really kind of hurt a little bit, because especially with all this, not really being able to get together much with the family, it's been a little depressing. That's one thing I can say about 2020. 2020, to an extent, was depressing, but also at the same time, I'm going to say it, actually, 2020 for me personally was actually a really good year. Again, you look past, the pandemic, you look past all the BLM stuff, you look past all of that. I haven't really had anything super bad happen to me this year. I've been able and fortunate to, start working more on my channel. I've been able to continue this podcast, which again is going strong. I've been getting a lot more viewers, and people have been wanting to come on and chat with me as well. And again, another big thing that happened to me this year was, reaching 100 subs. But again, I'll be talking about that. I actually have a list here of my 10 favorite YouTube moments from 2020. And again, even just personal stuff that I'll be talking about here a little bit. I'm not really sure exactly how long this podcast is going to go. Might only do a half hour. I might just do a short podcast. I might go a little longer. I've yet to decide, but I guess we'll find out. Also, make sure you guys are talking to me in the chat and let me know how your guys' 2020 went. That's really kind of it, honestly, for the negatives when it comes to, again, the BLM, the riots, all that stuff. I don't want to get into that, because I've distanced myself away from that stuff, because that's just an area that I'm not comfortable talking about. I don't really have any strong opinions. I just do my best to stay out of that kind of stuff. So again, I hope you guys are all also being safe. I hope you guys are, distancing yourselves when you can, washing your hands, sanitizing, wearing face masks, doing every and anything that you have to do to keep you and your family safe. I really do hope you guys are doing very well. But now, guys, I want to talk about the actual channel itself when it came to 2020. Because 2020, I'm going to say it, is the year that this channel actually really took off. Like right now, I'm sitting extremely happily at 118 subs. So I want to thank everybody who did sub last year. I also want to thank everybody who has, been a guest here on the podcast. I see my buddy Matt is here. It was fantastic. I wish there was a repeat button for 2020. Hey, man, you never know. You never know. Anything is possible in this world nowadays. But, being able to, do this podcast, being able to meet new people, having brand new people come into the chat, wanting to talk about and discuss whatever the topic is about, whether it's about a movie, whether it's video games, whether it's Star Wars, Dragon Ball Z, whatever the subject at hand was. People have always been very chatty in the chat. And again, I want to thank everybody. Like Matt, I know you wanted to be doing this podcast for quite a while, and we finally sat down. We finally did it. We had a 4-hour podcast talking about Dragon Ball Z, even throwing in some movies, throwing in some video games, all that stuff. Yeah, it's been fantastic. I have thoroughly enjoyed everything that I've done this year when it came to doing YouTube, because I've been able to even experiment with doing new things. I've bought a camera. I bought lights. I bought a green screen. I bought a microphone. I even got a computer, a good running computer that can handle a lot of what I want to do when it comes to the channel for my brother Kelly. So that was awesome. I mean, again, being able to interview one of my favorite YouTubers that I've been watching, that was awesome. Being able to interview a celebrity, that was crazy. Being able to start another new podcast with two guys who I'm really honestly going to consider are probably two of my best YouTube friends that I've made in the past year. Obviously, of course, I still got my old, really good friends when it comes to, YouTube, Kellen, I don't know if you're out there watching, man, but I miss you. I hope we can do something here soon. I mean, you were a big part of my channel for the longest time. We did a lot of collaborations. We did a lot of gameplays, live streams, whatever it was, challenges. And of course, being able to do my 1-year anniversary podcast, that was so much fun. Being able to, sit down, talk with a couple of my best friends, being able to bring on former guests. So I guess I could probably just do the my top 10 favorite YouTube moments of 2020. I think I'll do that real quick, and then we'll touch on some more stuff here. So number 10, again, I kind of already brought it up. Continuing the Midwest Cantina podcast. I didn't get to do as many podcasts last year as I wanted to. Unfortunately, I fell into that funk, that little groove where I just didn't want to make videos. It happens, unfortunately, to me way more than I wanted to. There'll be times I'll get on a good roll with making videos or doing live streams or, again, doing podcasts like I'm doing today. And then I fall out of it. I just lose ambition. I don't know if I just get burnt out. I don't know if I'm just don't have the urge like I used to, but ever since September of last year, I've been now really good getting back into trying to upload a lot more than I used to. Because again, there'd be a good while where I'd post maybe a video a week or a video every other week. Now as of now, and I'm not going to, cement this in stone, so please take this with a grain of salt. My plan as of now for this upcoming year is I want to do at least one podcast a week. And normally my Saturdays are normally when I have more free time to actually do stuff. So I feel like Saturdays would probably be more the time I would actually be doing a podcast if I do. And of course, too, again, I've got new equipment. I've got cameras, lights, green screen. I already talked about that. Great editing software. I mean, just the other day, I made my 20 first time watches of all time. Again, I'm kind of jumping around here. I guess I'm still talking about the podcast here, but yeah, being able to, make the videos that I've made with the green screen, those have been fun. Even doing a podcast with the green screen was really fun as well. But as of now, my plan is currently to try and do a podcast every single Saturday or maybe even a random day here and there. We'll see, though, if it actually works out. So continuing the Midwest Cantina podcast was number 10. Number 9, I wanted to put this a lot higher because this was kind of the first stepping stone for me wanting to actually grow my channel a lot more. But interviewing my favorite YouTube movie reviewer, Sean Chandler. Back in the end of March, early April, I reached out to Sean over Instagram. I just told him, hey, man, I'm a huge fan of your channel. I've enjoyed a lot of your videos. I watch your videos almost every day, every week. I like doing your rankings. I always feel like I'm actually weirdly talking to you while you're talking in your video or whatever. So it'd be awesome if you wanted to, or if you had some time to come on to the podcast. And he said, yeah, if my schedule works out, that'd be awesome. He came on. We talked about all sorts of things. We talked about Star Wars. We just talked about, his YouTube career, Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, we talked about all sorts of movie-related stuff. And not even that, too, but he was also on an episode of the Talkalorian Live with me and my buddy Andy. We were talking about, I believe it was episode 3 or chapter 11 of The Mandalorian. The Heiress, I believe it was, the one with Bo-Katan. So that was, having him on there too was really fun. He gave us a lot of insight. And of course, obviously, we talked pretty heavily about Star Wars and kind of what our thoughts were about everything. We talked about the sequel trilogy, what we liked, what we didn't like, all that kind of stuff. So being able to interview him, I hope to get him back on. I'll also be talking about a few more things that I want to do for the channel. I'll probably talk about that after this list. But interviewing Sean Chandler was number 9. Number 8, I already brought it up here, making new friends. I had Andy and Ren. They've been awesome to collaborate with here these last 8 weeks of The Mandalorian. Being able to chat with them every single Saturday when we had time. Talk about each episode in depth. Sometimes, obviously, veering off because we all have a lot of similar interests, different interests, Again, we went from talking about Star Wars, we've talked about movies, we've talked about video games, we've even talked about wrestling. I mean, we've talked about all sorts of different things on that podcast. And again, if you guys also watch the Talkalorian Live finale, our plan currently is to do this with every single season. Although, obviously, we need to figure something else out because we are not getting the Mandalorian Season 3 now until 2022. So, making new friends, number 8. Number 7, I mean, the obvious one, I've been bringing it up a lot lately, but reaching 100 subscribers this year. I've been doing, at least with this channel, I've been going for 4 to 4.5 years on this channel, I've had 2 prior YouTube channels before this. I've had, if anybody is here from the channel, my Jackass for Life, where I used to do, I had the guys on here talked about, all the stupid stuff we used to do, all the videos, all that kind of stuff. And I even had when I first started doing YouTube, when I first started kind of learning how to edit videos and adding music and all that stuff, I had it was just Birdman 317, 1993. They were just slideshows with music in there. A lot of them were wrestling, fake made-up pay-per-views that I made from a fake company that I made and all that. I think I did one with like a bunch of horror icons. I did one for like tribute to the troops and all that. I mean, it's been a long time since I've looked at that channel, so. But no, I have put so much work into this channel this year. I mean, I feel as though, especially from when I started doing this, I've really adapted, because originally I started this channel purely on accident. Like I knew I wanted to start up another YouTube channel. I knew I wanted it to do the SPC name. But I've talked about it before. My channel started by me just saving a 10-minute clip of me playing Battlefront, blowing up the Death Star, all that stuff. And it's one of the better games that I've done. So I decided, hey, I think this is something I could do. So, I sat down, found out there was an editing system on the PlayStation. So I started messing around with that, uploaded the video to YouTube. Obviously, it didn't really take off, but then I started learning about how to actually record, how to make them longer videos, having to do live streams and all that stuff. So, I started with Battlefront. I've done Battlefront, Battlefront 2, Jedi Fallen Order, Resident Evil 7. I started Resident Evil 2, didn't really finish that for the channel, which is another huge thing I've done, is starting a game and never actually finishing it with videos for the channel. But that's probably another big thing that I'm probably not going to do in 2021. It might be very seldom, but this podcasting stuff, when I just sit here and I chat with people, or even just the random videos I've been making, my 2021 update video, my updated ranking lists for Star Wars, my 2020 first time watches I just did the other day. Those videos and these streams seem to do better than any of my gameplay videos did. Because just like a couple of months ago, I think I streamed, I can't remember what it was. I think I streamed Alien Isolation. And yeah, I only had maybe 2 views on it. Where these podcasts, I'm getting lots and lots more views, which, it's always weird. I've never really cared about the views. I've never even really cared about, the subscribing. But again, I feel like I've been really growing a lot more. I've been wanting to do more things that have more interests for me, again, like this podcasting stuff. I don't know if anybody's listened to my very first podcast I did for this, but I originally wanted this to be like a talk show somehow. But then I started realizing, I think podcasting would just be the easiest thing to do. So, and again, it's really taken off. I mean, if you want to count the couple of specials, I think we're 20 or 21 episodes into this podcast. And again, I thoroughly enjoyed. I talked about Star Wars. I've talked about the toxicity of Star Wars, Mandalorian, games, movies. Talked again with my buddies on here. We've talked about, the past and all that. We've talked about Dragon Ball Z. We've talked about comics. I mean, there's been so many different topics that have been discussed on this podcast that I'm very proud, and I've been very passionate to actually continue to do this. And I mean, people keep tuning in. People even keep bringing up suggestions. People even keep saying hey, I wouldn't mind coming on and talking to you about this or that or whatever. And that's what I'd like to start doing more when it comes to, doing podcasts. I'd rather have guests on, because I'll be straight honest with you guys. I didn't think I was going to be 25 minutes in and still talking, because I've tried doing 2 podcasts by myself before I did the one with Ren and Andy, just talking about The Mandalorian on here. I did one for God of War, and I tried doing one on by myself talking about The Mandalorian, and I got about 10, 15 minutes in, and I had to turn it off because I drew a blank. But at least here, I've got quite a bit to talk about. I mean, some of these things I already talked about, but I'm going to bring them back up because that way I don't lose track of what I'm doing and end up wanting to turn this off, because I don't want to do that. So, reaching 100 subscribers, number 7. Number 6, I brought this up too, doing green screen videos. Being able to actually, adapt in my video making skills, because I've never messed with a green screen before. I think it was about like June or July is when I started buying all this stuff, is when I got the microphone. It's when I got tripod, the camera, green and blue screen, the stand for the screens, getting headsets, getting, all this new stuff, upgrading my equipment. Because this all started not even just with the PlayStation. This also just started with me just, being on my phone, doing whatever it was, whether it was a review of an episode of Flash or Arrow, or if it was me doing an unboxing for the Smuggler's Bounty, or if it was just me doing a Funko video, whatever it was. That's how I started. I started on my phone, and, now, again, we're here. I've got an actual camera. I've got a good microphone. I've got, again, good editing software systems. So I'm really excited to continue doing that. I cannot wait for future projects that I want to do. I'm going to be doing some more rankings. Again, I brought it up. I did my 21st time watches here just the other day, and I'm probably going to be doing another one because I realized I've watched way more movies than I thought I did. So there'll probably be another 20 first time watches. But of course, for it being 2021, I'll do my 21 first time watches here. So not going to say it'll be soon. We'll just kind of see how everything starts to play out. So number 5, I only uploaded this because it took me a while to actually do this, but beating the Valkyrie Queen in God of War. For those of you guys who have not played it yet, I highly suggest you guys go and play this game. If you guys have a PS5, if you guys have the PS Plus, I believe it's one of like the 20 games that you can play on there. But God of War 2018, easily for me, is probably top 5 and like the best video games I've ever played. The story is fantastic. The combat's fantastic. I mean, the enemies are just they're varied throughout the game, which is very nice because you don't want to just fight, the same enemies throughout the entire game, because it just ends up becoming very stale, very boring, a lot quicker. But after you beat the game, there's some hidden areas you can find. There Odin's hidden chambers of treasures or something, I think they're called. But in each and every one of them is a Valkyrie. After you beat 8 of the Valkyries, what are supposed to be the hardest bosses in the game, and I cannot tell you how big of an understatement that is. But after you beat each Valkyrie, you end up taking their helmets. And after you take their helmets, you have to find, I think it's called, I can't remember what it's called. I think it's just called like the Chamber of the Valkyries or the Council of the Valkyries. That's what it's called. But you place the helmet in their rightful places. And after you get all 8 of them set up, you go to the middle, you open up this realm tear, and out comes, hands down, the hardest boss, not only just in the God of War game, but probably in the God of War series. And honestly, I'm going to say it too, probably the hardest boss battle I have ever fought. I won't lie to you guys. It took me a while to beat her. Like, I grinded for 7 or 8 hours until I finally beat the Valkyrie Queen. And it, hands down, was the most satisfying thing I have probably done since I have been playing video games. Because there have been plenty of video games where I get to a certain boss or I get to a certain area, I don't figure it out. I just turn the game off, get rid of it, don't even touch it again. Eventually go back. Eventually actually, try to re-beat it. But yeah, that hands down has been one of the greatest things I've probably done this year. I mean, for me, it's very satisfying, especially when it comes to a video game that I love and I cherish so much, like the God of War series. Especially with it being my favorite video game series of all time. I cannot tell you how great it was to finally beat her. So, number 4, starting the Talkalorian Live with Andy and Ren, 2 fellow geeks in this realm. I mean, there's not really much, honestly, as horrible as it sounds, there's not much I can say. We've done 8 episodes of the Talkalorian Live, of course, reviewing each episode of The Mandalorian, which, of course, were 8 episodes. And hopefully here in the next 2 weeks, we are going to be doing the actual finale where we talk about the entire season as a whole. We give our thoughts overall about the season, characters, ranking the episodes, ranking the characters, whatever we end up talking about. It should be a fun time. Again, if you guys have yet to check out any of the Talkalorian Live, make sure you guys go and check that series out. Again, it was some of the most fun and satisfying podcasts that I probably have done this year. I mean, again, I've enjoyed every single podcast I've done. I've had some great guests on. But being able to do that weekly with them for 8 weeks straight was really nice because I actually had something scheduled. I actually had something I was looking forward to doing each and every single weekend. So that was really nice. And again, hopefully we'll be getting back to it soon. I guess with, Mando being pushed back to 2022. Who knows? Maybe we might do something about the Boba Fett series coming up here at the end of the year. Maybe we might do Obi-Wan. I mean, we have yet to really discuss anything. So again, take this with a grain of salt. Number 3, my 1 year, 100 subscriber special. Hands down, probably one of the best times I've had since being here on YouTube. Just being able to, again, talk about specific topics with 2 of my best friends in the entire world, Ethan and Travis. Being able to have George the Jedi back on for my May the 4th special. And obviously, of course, Andy being back on. Andy, you've been so great, so awesome. You were a huge part of my channel last year, so I really want to send a bunch of love your way, man. I really appreciate you. But we talked about, the state of Star Wars video games. We talked about anime. We talked about video games we played during quarantine. We also talked about the state of the theaters and whether or not everything was just going to start going to streaming and maybe movie theaters were eventually going to start dying out. And even to just favorite video games of all time. It was a great podcast. I mean, we went for almost 2.5 hours. We talked about a lot of stuff. We all just had a great time. I'm hoping to get all of them back on whether it's all together again for another podcast, whether it's separately for another podcast, it doesn't really matter to me. It was just easily one of the best times I've had since doing this podcasting stuff. So, number 2, interviewing Nicole Tompkins. Again, another podcast. If you guys have not watched it, highly suggest you do. It was really cool talking to Nicole, because I got to say, like, I will say, obviously, I was super nervous, going into it. I was emailing her publicist. I donated, I don't remember. I donated to her one of her live streams, and I asked her about if she wanted to be on my podcast, and she said, "Oh, reach out to my publicist and we can make something happen." I did that. I bugged her publicist for like 2 or 3 days. And she finally reached back and said, "Hey, you get this much time with her. We can do it on this day after she's done doing her stream." And I was like, "Cool, that's fine." Of course, the day got closer and closer, and I started getting more and more nervous. And as soon as she popped in, added her on, we started talking. She was probably one of the most just chill people I've probably talked to. Like, she went from me being like this nervous wreck because I was talking to somebody who, who's been in movies, who's been a voice actor in video games, motion capture in video games, to just being just this chill, just cool, down-to-earth person. And it was just, I mean, I think I said it in there like 3 or 4 times. Like, it was surreal, like, talking to her. I mean, I pop in once in a while, she'll see my name. She'll say, "Hey, what's up?" I mean, obviously that's about it, because she's talking to a bunch of other people on her streams and stuff. And another person I'm hoping to get back on the podcast maybe sometime this year. I don't know. I will even say, guys, I've been reaching out and trying to get more, I guess I'll just use the word famous-ish guests on. I don't want to say like who I've reached out to, because I feel like about 90% of them probably won't happen. But I got that itch now. I've got that just urge and that drive to try and get somebody else on and talk to them. It doesn't matter. Obviously, of course, I want it to be, about something that, I like. I don't want it to just be some just random person. But no, getting to interview her, talking to her about Resident Evil 3, because, of course, she was motion capture and voice actress for Jill, the main character of the game. And also even finding out that she was in a couple movies. I've watched a few of her movies here probably in the last few weeks, because I've had really nothing else to do with there being snow here now, so I haven't really had much to do to go outside. But the best YouTube moment I've had for 2020 was getting all of my friends back together, for no joke, probably the first time in 10 years. I remember, reaching out to Alan. I remember reaching out and telling him, being like, "Hey, man, I hope things are going well. I'm hoping we can eventually talk again. I hope, whatever." I mean, I don't want to go into depth because, that's kind of more between me and him. But, and then I just kind of brought it up. We started a group chat on Facebook, and I brought up the fact that I had a podcast, and our friend John brought up, he's like, "Oh, we could do like a Knights of the Round Table kind of thing." And I got them all on here, and, we brought up the past. It was just all of us being together that I really enjoyed, because, again, it was the first time since about 2010, maybe even 2011 was the last time we were all like together like that prior to that podcast. I mean, we've all stayed in contact. We've all been, talking and chatting still here and there. And But of course, again, we're all adults. We've all got our things going on. We're all working full time. Or some of us got families. Some of us have got, things we want to do in our personal lives. But hopefully someday I want to reach out and ask them if they would like to come back on here and let's just have like one big discussion, kind of like I did with the 1 year podcast. Just everybody bring up a specific topic and being able to just chat about whatever we're going to chat about. So yeah, guys, those were my 10 favorite YouTube moments of the year. Yeah, man, again, 2020, it was, I'd say, actual, like, worldwide. 2020 sucked. I already brought up, obviously, two of the biggest things that happened last year. But I can willingly say, again, I already brought it up, 2020 was a pretty good year for me. I didn't really have a lot of complaints. I'm hoping 2021 is going to be even better. I mean, again, obviously, big goals I'm hoping for 2021. I'm not going to be used to saying that here for a while. Again, I want the channel to grow. I really do. Like, again, I've been having such a blast, doing podcasts, doing videos, actually getting content out consistently to you guys. Unlike the first few years, I've been very motivated, very passionate, very dedicated to this channel, wanting to reach out to you guys, getting some of you guys onto the podcast, getting some of you guys to just even help me come up with some ideas. But one of the other things, too, that I want to do this year, there is going to be another brand new podcast that I want to start this year. As to when, I have yet to set a date. But I am just calling it a Star Wars story. I'm going to bring guests on who are big-time Star Wars fans. And I want to get, obviously, like I just called it, I want their Star Wars story, What got them into Star Wars, favorite movies, favorite characters, least favorite characters, just every and anything they want to talk about when it comes to Star Wars. It's been something I've been wanting to do for a while. I've got a logo made, but I will, my plan is to bring this up in a video as well, because I know some people don't tune into these podcasts. Some people turn into the videos more. So I'll probably make a video about it as well. But I'm really hoping that one's also going to take off. I mean, I have so many friends who are just huge, die-hard Star Wars fans. And I can always have a great conversation with them. Like, again, when it comes to, the toxicity within, the fan base, it's always hard to want to reach out to certain people to talk about Star Wars with, because as it's always worded, man, I mean, nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans. And I mean, it's true. I mean, I brought it up in a podcast before. I mean, just the level of toxicity within the fan base is just, it almost like turns you off from even wanting to talk about Star Wars with people, because everybody in this world, I've said this ad nauseum, but I have to say it again because it's just so true. Everybody in this world is entitled to their own opinion, and that's cool. I bring it up all the time. I'm a fan of the sequel trilogy. I really do enjoy the sequel trilogy as a whole. I enjoy it a lot more than I do the prequels as a whole. Even though I love Revenge of the Sith, it is still my second favorite Star Wars film. But I feel as though Disney has really been working very hard to, give us what we want. I mean, huge example, The Mandalorian. I mean, the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian, like literally that last 10 minutes of that episode I was literally in tears. I was happy. I was emotional. I could not believe what I was seeing, and especially when I actually saw Luke Skywalker's face. A young Mark Hamill from back in 1983 just blew me away so much. Of course, Mando obviously having to say goodbye to Grogu. That was another very emotional part, and it's really kind of leaves it very wide open now for season 3 as to what's going to happen. But I'm going to save all this for the actual Talkalorian podcast when we get to it here in another 2 weeks. So that is another big, huge project that I'm working on. And I'm very excited for it. I hope I get quite a few guests. I don't know how long I will continue to have that go, but we will definitely see how that goes. So anybody who's in the chat, again, if you guys have anything to say about how your 2020 went, you guys can definitely let me know in the comments section of the video. Yeah, guys, I actually think I've already covered everything I wanted to cover. Again, I did my top 10. I'm very happy about all that. Those are probably some of the biggest moments from 2020 for me. And again, a huge shout out to each and every single subscriber who's subscribed. Every single guest I've had on the podcast. Just every single one of you guys. Like, seriously, you guys are the reason I continue to do this. You guys keep giving the videos thumbs ups. You guys talk to me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You guys even message me in the comments section. I would not be doing this if it wasn't for you guys. If you guys were not here, I probably would have quit doing this a long time ago. I'll be straight up honest with you. Then I've never been able to experiment with everything I've been experimenting with. Again, podcasting, microphones, editing softwares, green screens, all this stuff. So seriously, a huge thank you to each and every single one of you. And I guess we'll just also discuss the upcoming podcasts that I have coming here. I need to find my list, though, because I'll be honest, I don't remember exactly how I had these going. So obviously, we've got this one going on right now. And then the Talkalorian Live special, that is going to be on the 16th of this month. And we will be doing that at noon. So 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then next week, Saturday, the 9th at 7 p.m. I hope a lot of you guys show up for this one because I really want you guys to all be there for this one. There will be a live Q&A. So you guys come in. I might try and get some guests on. You guys ask the topics. We will talk about it. Also on the 30th, hopefully, and again, this is another one I gotta unfortunately take with a grain of salt if it actually works out, but it's a special surprise podcast. But again, we'll see what happens. If not, I'll either just reschedule this or I will maybe just talk about something else. We'll see here in the next few weeks. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. And then on February 6th is going to be the You're the Guest special, where I put the link to the broadcast center here on StreamYard on my Twitter. Get 5 guests on. You guys each get 15, 20 minutes. Make sure you guys' topics are appropriate, and hopefully it's something that I know of. Also, make sure you guys have a camera and good lighting. And that's pretty much it. And then also on I think then I'm going to take the week off after that. And then on February 20th, I will be getting my first YouTube guest. That is going to be Cody Leach. Cody Leach is going to be here on the podcast. We are going to be talking and discussing horror. I cannot wait. And then depending on his scheduling, the following week, I might be talking with the YouTuber Brando Critic. So, again, if you guys haven't yet, just turn on that notification bell. Make sure you guys go and just type in my name in the search bar. Watch out for these podcasts. You guys can turn the reminder on, and it'll automatically tell you as soon as I go live, and you guys will not miss out on it. So as of now, guys, that is my plan for 2021. Just growing the channel, starting my series, A Star Wars Story, having guests on, and again, I've already got my list of the podcasts, so that is pretty much going to be it, I think, for this podcast, you guys. Once again, thank you to every single one of you. Appreciate you. Love you guys. You're awesome. And with that being said, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you in the next one.